Hello again. Every so often, the accusation will come up that Elvis stole black music. I've always found it strange that it's black music, because of course Elvis covered white artists as well. So let's have a look. Are there actually any grounds for this accusation? The first sales of recorded music began as early as the 1880s, with music recorded onto wax cylinders. But these would have been out of reach for most people with the cost of the player and the cylinder themselves. In 1896, Emil Berliner invented the gramophone that played flat discs, which he called gramophone records. Born in Germany in 1851, he had emigrated to America in 1870, settling in New York. Berliner's machine was hand-operated, which of course resulted in speed fluctuations. The engineer Eldridge Johnson had a small shop in Camden, New Jersey, and he developed a small wound-up spring motor that could be fitted to a gramophone. Berliner moved to Canada in 1900, and so Johnson formed the Victor Talking Machine Company in 1901. His machines became known as Victrolas, and the discs played upon them were called records. He sold his company in 1926, and in 1929 it was sold again to RCA, who formed RCA Victor. So the public would buy recordings of their favourite songs. The performers were not so important, it was the song that became popular. This was because at first sales of sheet music were important to songwriters. Not being able to afford players, a lot of people did have access to pianos, and so wanted to sing the big hits of the day. Because of this, when a song became a hit, record companies could quickly get their contracted artists to record a version of it. The songwriters were happy, as the more versions of their song released, the more royalties they would be paid. The first music sales charts were published by Billboard magazine in 1913, but this was actually a chart of the week's biggest selling sheet music. Over time, charts were introduced for the sales of records. The 1907 Copyright Act in America just stated that any artist could record a song, but that if physical sales resulted, they had to pay royalties to the songwriter and publisher of the original. This established point one. You did not need anyone's permission to record a song. Point two. It was standard practice to have multiple recordings of a hit song released in a short period. If you spend any time looking at early charts, you'll find many examples of this.
Symphony of love. Symphony of love. Symphony of love.
Point three. Songwriters wanted as many artists as possible to record their songs. They would produce demo discs and sheet music, which would be sent out to famous artists and record companies, hoping that they would be recorded. If a songwriter or songwriting team had several hit songs, they might be asked to write a song for a particular artist. In New York, a group of songwriters had set up in an area which became known as Tin Pan Alley. The name came from a newspaper article in which the reporter described walking down the street with the sound of pianos from every window, which he said sounded like people bashing on tin pans. Elvis grew up in this tradition. The concept of not being allowed to sing a song because someone else had already recorded it would be totally ridiculous to him. In 1952, Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, a New York Jewish songwriting team, decided to write a song for the R&B singer Willie Mae Thornton, better known as Big Mama Thornton. Jerry wrote a blues song about a woman angrily telling her man to go to hell. Stoller later stated that he came up with the beat of the song by banging on his car. They took the song to Thornton and were asked to produce the recording session. They stated that she attempted to sing it as a ballad. They asked her to sing it as they had written it. They even performed it themselves to give her the phrasing. Her vocal performance is iconic, and her single went to #1 on the US R&B chart. Amazingly, her only #1 hit record. It sold 500,000 copies, but she stated later in an interview that she made very little money from it. Like a lot of artists at this time, she was ripped off. Then the single faded into obscurity, just as most singles did at this time after their initial popularity. We know that Elvis had a copy of her recording in his personal record collection at Graceland. Now we jump forward to 1956. 23rd of April, Elvis began a 2-week stint of performances at the New Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas. It was not a success. Las Vegas patrons expected orchestras, lush arrangements and dancing girls. To them, Elvis, Scotty, Bill and DJ were country bumpkins fooling around on stage, singing music that they just didn't understand. It must have been a very long 2 weeks for Elvis and his band. Elvis even acknowledged the audience's disinterest in a recording we have of one of the performances.
I would like to tell you that it's really been a pleasure being in Las Vegas. This makes our second week here. Tonight's our last night, and we've had a pretty hard time had a pretty good time while we're here. And we got a few little songs we'd like to do for you. We have on record, and our style of singing, if you want to call it singing. And
having no interest in gambling, Elvis and the boys hung around the hotel or took in some shows. They saw Freddie Bell and the Bell Boys at the Sahara Lounge. In their act, they performed their own version of Hound Dog, but it had changed lyrics, as the original, of course, was from a woman's perspective. It was now a joyful but very silly song. Elvis liked it, and he began performing it live, basing his performance on this version. But he didn't take the song seriously. 2nd of July 1956, Elvis went into the RCA studio in New York and recorded 3 songs: Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel and Any Way You Want Me. 3 absolute classics. The session log shows 31 takes of Hound Dog. Elvis kept on pushing himself and the band to get down on tape what he had in his head. Finally the master was recorded, and when released with Don't Be Cruel on the other side of the disc, the single was a massive hit. It is the only single in US chart history where both sides of the single were listed at #1 in their own right. It held the top spot for 11 weeks and is now credited with 10 million sales. Over the years, we get the nonsense spouted that Elvis stole Hound Dog from Big Mama Thornton. It's a bizarre statement that completely falls apart when you actually look at it. And it tells me a lot about the person saying it. It is a statement that to me is thoroughly rooted in a racist view of music. It's also an accusation oddly reserved for Elvis, a white artist, though Elvis was actually from a mixed race Cherokee background, singing a song and importantly having a bigger hit than a black artist. And there is the key. It's Elvis's success that creates
Just a little bit of green.
When Ray Charles stupidly said in an interview that Elvis stole black music, he conveniently forgot his own covers of songs written and performed first by white artists.
Oh, little lonely people, where do they all come from? Yeah. All them lonely people, where do they all belong now?
Of course, most artists are not so dumb. Big Mama Thornton recorded at least 10 covers during her career. It's funny that no one ever says, you know, Michael Jackson stole Smile from Charlie Chaplin, or Whitney Houston stole I Will Always Love You from Dolly Parton. Every now and then we get the story out that this is the black artist that Elvis copied or got his style from. Oddly, most of them were admirers or even friends of Elvis, and the feeling was mutual. Roy Hamilton, Jackie Wilson, Otis Blackwell, and even the relatively unknown singer of the Without You demo that Sam Phillips wanted Elvis to record, Jimmy Sweeney. Now, it is true that Jimmy Sweeney had a voice and style similar to Elvis's at this time. But, Mr. Taylor, when Elvis first heard Sweeney's demo, he had already recorded 4 songs in exactly this style. That is why Sam asked him to try this song. So, where do we stand with the charge that Elvis stole Hound Dog? 1. Thornton did not write Hound Dog. 2. Her fantastic vocal performance was based on Leiber and Stoller's vision, not her own. 3. Her recording had been out of the charts for 4 years by the time Elvis recorded it. Mike Stoller stated in an interview that when he first heard Elvis's version of Hound Dog on the radio, he didn't recognise it as their song. Elvis's version of Hound Dog owes nothing to Thornton's version. It was inspired by Freddie Bell's version. Faster, with different lyrics more suited to a male singer. Freddie stated that he was happy that he inspired Elvis and that he encouraged him to record it. Elvis took the song and ramped it up to 11. His totally uninhibited vocal is astonishing. The drumming by DJ Fontana is inspired. The guitar solos by Scotty Moore are massively influential and have been cited by artists like Jimmy Page, Keith Richards, John Fogerty and even Elton John. The music magazine Rolling Stone likes to publish lists. Of course these lists are subjective. We tend to like the ones we agree with. They regularly have a list of their top 500 songs in music history, and at 19 they put Elvis's recording of Hound Dog. But in 2024 they revised this list according to modern theories that appear to prioritise skin colour over merit. For the first time they included Thornton's recording at number 319, a worthy inclusion, and you have to ask why they hadn't included it before. But can you guess where they've now put Elvis's version of Hound Dog? And so, on the charge of stealing black music, and specifically of stealing Hound Dog, Elvis is of course not guilty. It is a stupid charge, and you have to wonder why people still come out with it. Every artist has been influenced by a previous artist. This is true of everyone. No matter how creative, no matter how artistically genius they are, they have all been inspired. But inspiration is not theft. If it was, art would be set in stone, unable to advance, unable to alter. Just use your brain a bit before you open your mouth. Till next time, bye for now.